All right, today we're diving into something really serious, the strangulated hernia. We're going to break down exactly how a pretty common problem can suddenly turn into a life-or-death emergency. We'll cover the warning signs you have to know and the incredible surgical steps that save a life.
So first up, what exactly makes a strangulated hernia a surgeon's worst nightmare? This is the most severe, the most dangerous complication you can get from a standard hernia. Okay, so the absolute key here is blood flow. Or, well, the lack of it. Imagine a piece of your intestine gets pushed through a weak spot. That's the hernia. But then that weak spot clamps down tight around it. It's literally like a tourniquet. The blood supply gets choked off, and that trapped tissue starts to die. And that is the moment a manageable problem flips into a full-blown, life-threatening crisis.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, because there's a subtle but super important distinction to make. You see, the most common type of hernia to strangulate is the indirect inguinal hernia, mostly because its opening is just naturally narrow. But, and this is the kicker, the type with the highest rate of strangulation, the one that's proportionally most likely to go bad, that's the femoral hernia. So it's a classic case of what happens most often versus what is most risky.
And this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? You can see the bar for indirect inguinal is higher in terms of sheer numbers, but look at the rate for femoral hernias. For any given femoral hernia, the danger is just way, way higher. It's a perfect visual of how statistics can really pinpoint where the true danger lies.
So, who is most at risk for this? Well, it turns out this isn't an equal opportunity emergency. The risk of strangulation is way higher at the extremes of life. We're talking about the very young and the elderly. So it's something that doctors are especially vigilant about in those groups.
Okay, since we know this is a race against time, let's get right to it. What are the red flags? What are the critical warning signs that you absolutely need to know?
So, you might be wondering, how can you possibly tell the difference between a normal hernia and this kind of emergency? Well, trust me, when strangulation happens, your body doesn't whisper, it screams. It sends out distress signals that are pretty much impossible to ignore.
The first thing, the absolute #1 sign, is the pain. And we're not talking about a dull ache here. This is a sudden, sharp, intense pain that just explodes right at the hernia. And it doesn't stay there. It can spread like wildfire across your whole abdomen as your body sounds the alarm.
Then, the hernia itself completely changes. It might have been a soft bulge before, but now it becomes this hard, tense, and incredibly tender mass. Just touching it is agonizing. That's a huge clue that whatever is trapped inside is in serious, serious trouble.
And you might even be able to see the problem. The skin right over the hernia can start to change color, turning reddish or even a little bluish. That's literally a visual sign that the blood supply has been cut off just beneath the surface. It's a huge red flag.
Okay, and this is a really key diagnostic clue, especially for a doctor. You know how with a regular hernia, if you cough, it kind of bulges out more? They call that an expansile cough impulse. Well, with a strangulated hernia, that doesn't happen. The tissue is jammed in there so tight it can't move. So when the person coughs, nothing changes. The impulse is just gone.
So, let's recap. You've got intense, sudden pain, a hard, tender mass. The skin is changing color, and that cough impulse is gone. When you add all that up, it points to only one thing, one undeniable conclusion.
Yeah, there is zero ambiguity here. This is not a let's wait and see what happens kind of situation. A strangulated hernia is a full-blown surgical emergency. We're talking every single minute counts. The longer that tissue goes without blood, the closer you get to tissue death, massive infection, and just catastrophic complications.
So, what does this life-saving surgery actually look like? Let's pull back the curtain and walk through the exact methodical steps a surgeon takes in the operating room to fix this.
It's a really clear, logical process. Step 1, the surgeon makes an incision to get right to the source. Step 2, they find that tight ring of tissue, the neck of the hernia that's doing all the squeezing. Step 3, they carefully cut that ring to release the pressure. And then comes the most critical part, step 4. They have to assess the tissue that was trapped. Is it still viable, or is it too late?
And what's really brilliant about this surgical approach is how efficient it is. The surgeon is basically prepared for the worst-case scenario from the get-go. If they find that a piece of the intestine is already dead, they can handle the whole thing, remove the bad section, and reconnect the healthy parts right then and there, all through that one single incision. It's incredibly smart.
All right, now we get to what I think is the most fascinating part of this whole procedure. It's a very specific step that, on the surface, seems totally backwards, but it's absolutely vital for keeping the patient safe.
So check out this quote from a surgical textbook. It says, "In strangulated hernia, the sac is opened at the fundus before constriction is relieved." Did you catch that? They open the sac before they release the pressure. It sounds completely counterintuitive, right? Why on earth would you do that?
Well, the logic behind it is actually a masterclass in surgical thinking. There are two huge life-saving reasons for doing it in this exact order, and both are designed to stop a terrible situation from getting even worse.
And here they are, laid out perfectly. Reason number 1, preventing contamination. Look, if that trapped bowel is dead, it's leaking toxic stuff. By opening the sac first, the surgeon can contain all that nasty fluid and clean it out before it has a chance to spill into the abdomen. Reason number 2, making sure they can do a proper examination. If they just cut the pressure ring first, that damaged piece of intestine could just slip right back into the abdomen before they've had a chance to see if it's okay. This way, they have total control. It's all about safety.